Well, hello there, guys, and welcome to another episode of No Crosstalk. My name is Pip.
I am Laura.
I'm Jason.
This is Jason. He's a good friend of ours. He is filling in this week. Rick couldn't make it. He's helping his father mulch his house. So he had to sit this week out. It's all good stuff. Helping out your family's it's all good. And so he couldn't make it, so we asked Jason to join us and talk about some things that are relatable to him in his journey in early sobriety. So just a couple things. Again, happy Friday morning. We all hope that you had a wonderful week at work and in your journey in sobriety. And we hope that you have a great weekend. I'd also like to plug another good friend of mine. He has been promoting this podcast the first 2 weeks that we've done it. His name's Jerry Allen. He runs a group for God Life Ministry for Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is another path. It's not a 12-step program. It's much more spiritually based. A lot of people really dig that. And he told me that there is a meeting in our area, which is the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, at the Hope Center in Bethlehem. It's at 429 East Broad Street. The meetings are on Mondays, and they are 6 to 7 p.m. He also said that if you would like to be added to his mailing list, and it's actually pretty cool. Like every morning when I get up at like 6:30 in the morning, because we all know that once we get clean and sober, we become early risers, you know. But it's always nice because every morning when I get up, I get a text message from Jerry directly, and I'm part of his mailing list, right? And he sends me his daily devotional. It's always recovery related, and it kind of gives me a little bit of a devotional, a little push and a nudge each morning, and including on the weekends. It's not just days of the week. But it's great. And he's a really great guy, and I know him in recovery. He does a lot for the recovery community. So I just wanted to plug that real quick for anybody who's interested. And even if you're not in our area and you're not able to get to the meeting, text him. The number, his phone number is 484-602-6113. That's 484-602-6113. He did say to just text him anytime, and he will add you to his mailing list. So now, what brings us together today? As everybody knows, we do topics each week, and this week's topic is going to be struggles in early sobriety, because we all know that we've all heard the term pink cloud, right? We've all heard that term. For those of you who don't know, a pink cloud is what a lot of us experience when we first get clean and sober. It's a sense of relief.
Everything is great.
Yeah.
Life is perfect. I'm so happy. Sobriety is the best thing ever, and it's always going to be perfect.
Yep. So it's that matched with a sense of accomplishment. It's the joy. It's the overwhelming joy that not just your mind, but your body is feeling. You feel better. You're through your detox. You're into recovery now. You've entered the gates of recovery, and it's called the pink cloud. So we all know what that term now means, right? But eventually, right, that pink cloud, it wears off. It doesn't last forever, right? Because as the term goes, life gets lifey. Things start to happen. Breakups happen, loss of jobs, loss of family members, loved ones. Even things like relapse, it happens. And it drags you back down, right? It knocks you down a peg, but we learn to get back up. Or we keep moving. We keep moving through these things. So I know that all of us here have struggled in early sobriety for many, many different reasons. So for me, I'll just start just a little bit.
Let's introduce Jason.
I want to get Jason going here. Yeah. So Jason, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Jason. I guess I can define myself as an alcoholic and drug addict as well. I guess for a long period of my life, I couldn't really admit unmanageability in my life, so I never really sought a different solution other than drugs and alcohol until things happened in life. I got kicked out of the house and started having to take a hard look at myself. Went into treatment. Before that, treatment was kind of a taboo for me, and I did that in April of last year, and I don't know, I've been working a program since then.
It's awesome, man.
I think it's important for our listeners and people watching to know that the three of us actually were in treatment together, which is a pretty cool story.
I was not.
You were not.
I was not. I didn't go to the same rehab center as you guys.
That's right. But same time. You're on the same timeline as us.
Yeah,
right?
That is true. All three of us are on the same timeline.
Yes.
We're within like a month or two of each other.
Yeah.
All of us.
Well, Jason and I were in the same treatment center.
Yeah.
So, and there's a couple of us who are all in the area and are all sober together. And it's not the case that people who go to treatment generally, the statistics are not great for people who do not relapse, who stay sober after their first time in treatment or whatever the case may be. So we've got a cool little group going here of all of us who are on the same like timeline and path, which is neat.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty rare.
It is, and it's pretty cool because I mentioned it in our first episode that like the fact that all of us are here and able to talk about this stuff because, as Laura has mentioned, this disease is often fatal, and I know we all know plenty of people who did not win this battle, right? So the fact that all of us are here and are able to discuss it in this context, right, in this forum, is nothing short of a miracle, man. It's absolutely nothing short of a miracle. And we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Jason and I have traveled around. We've done a lot of speaking commitments together. We play a lot of golf together. Now Laura's playing golf, so we'll have to get her out on the course. So there's a lot to be enjoyed in sobriety, right? You meet a lot of new people. A lot of people you have stuff in common with, but the most common thing that we all have together is our ailment, the disease that we have, right? And how we've battled that disease, right? So for me, if I may, a lot has gone into battling those struggles, right? Because I battled back from, as I mentioned in the last episode, I battled back from pretty significant legal issues. The uncertainty of what my future looked like early on. When I was in rehab, I still thought I was going back to jail for a while. And that even my attorney had said, like, it's a good possibility, like, when you get out of rehab, you're going directly back to jail. And that was a really difficult mountain to overcome, being like, why? Because at first the thought is like, why am I doing this? If I'm just going back to jail, what's the point? I might as well just go home and use again and just go back to the same life. If I got to go to jail, I might as well get it in while I can. I learned something in the first rehab center that was really valuable. One of the techs pointed out to me, she's like, the drugs and alcohol were not the problem. You're the problem. Your way of thinking is the problem. And I was just like, how dare you? How dare you?
I'm great.
Yeah. It was the fact that I put drugs and alcohol into my body that's the problem. That's what made me so reckless, That's not the case. We all know this. We have all come to learn this. It wasn't the drugs and alcohol. That's simply a symptom, right? It was my way of thinking. And it was a lifetime of those behaviors, learned behaviors, So it's going to take a long time for us to unlearn or relearn new behaviors, So I want to pass it off to you a little bit, Jason. I want you to talk a little bit about the things that you've gone through, because some of them are pretty heavy, man. And I want you to describe what you've gone through and how you've been able to manage them.
Yeah, so early on, everything was great, like you guys were saying about the pink cloud, I can think back a story, like 3 months in, driving with my wife and the kids in a car, saying like I felt like I was high on life, and instantly took a mirror off another car. I'm like, I'm not drunk or high.
Nobody said I was a good driver.
Yeah. But no, everything was great, and it was odd coming into a program and not knowing people, but I quickly met people. But early on, I maintained a comfortability level with what I was doing, with the amount of meetings I was doing every week. I still met with a sponsor, did the work that I was supposed to be doing. But looking back now, I kind of half-assed it, and
how so?
I stayed comfortable. I didn't push myself and put myself around people that challenged the way that I thought. I kind of just made the excuse that I have a wife and kids at home. I can't dedicate that much time to doing my recovery.
That's not an uncommon excuse that people use.
Yeah, and when I speak a lot, I tell people that whatever you put before your recovery, you're going to lose. And for me, that was the case. I allowed certain character defects to continue, hiding things from my wife, or just reacting a certain way to different contexts of conversations that we had. And she filed for divorce in March, so that's been a struggle, But since then, I've kind of dug in and got a new sponsor that challenges me a lot now, and I put myself around a lot different people that push me to be better. And not only that, but I do a lot of other programs outside of 12-step programs that challenge me to get closer to God, and different stuff like that. It helps a lot with, even on my way over here today, I said something out of just simply being human, and it was taken the wrong way, and it wasn't even how I meant to take it. But that's just where our thinking is, and it's going to take a while, like you said, to get away from that.
What do you think are some of the tools that you've learned in sobriety that have helped you, since March and as you're dealing with like the lifey things that are happening?
Reach out, talk to people, and I do that a lot more now. See, that's one thing that I didn't do before, I made a stupid choice to go back to a doctor that I was going to going into rehab. He wanted to prescribe the same medication that I was on before I got out, and instead of calling people then and not making that choice, I didn't. I can handle it on my own. And not only that, but then I hide that from my wife. But like now, today, when things like that come up, there's like 4 or 5 people that I reach out to right away. Hey, what do you think I should do in this case? Am I handling this right? And 9 out of 10 times now I am. There's just an instance here or there where I'm not.
Yeah. So I know that I call it, and a lot of people call it, running it through the filter, right? Because like when I just allow my own emotions or thoughts to like just flow freely, it gets me into trouble every time. But if I take those thoughts, and as Laura knows, the conversations that we've had in the past couple weeks matched with everyone else that I know, right? I tell them the same script of what's going on in my life, and I allow them to give me their filtrated response, right? So it runs it all through this filter, right? It's not just the screen is taut. It's like this, it's very little bullshit is getting through that screen, right? So because when you run it through a web that tight, it's only natural that it's going to catch all the bullshit, right? So for me, I run it through the filter, and it really helps. And the very last, the very first and the very last is taking it to my higher power. Right? I turn over my will, right, at the beginning, and then I run it through the filter, and at the very end, I ask for his guidance, right? And ultimately, it allows, I don't know if I probably don't ever make the right decisions for all I know, but like, I at least make my best concerted effort to make the most guided and calculated decision I can based on all of the facts and every one that I've spoken to.
I think what's really helpful for me in thinking about both reaching out to other people and asking for like their version of events, right? Like, I told you what I think happened. Now you tell me actually what happened, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And also then, turning something over to a higher power and kind of like, using your spiritual connection to something to help you through. Like, both of those acts take the responsibility of finding a solution right now out of my hands.
Hell yeah. Like, that's a really great point. Yeah.
Well, that's my regular way of being. Like, there's a problem in front of me. Somebody's mad at me. I've got this problem at work. I'm not doing this well enough. How do I fix it now?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that sometimes you just don't. And sometimes you just accept that for right now, this is going to be hard. And this relationship is going to be strained. And, this situation at work is going to continue to be hard. And eventually I'll figure out how to deal with it, but it doesn't have to be right now. And it's actually not me who's going to figure it out. I'm going to rely on and turn to other people and a higher power, and ultimately I will figure out the solution, but it might not be right now, and that's going to have to be okay, right? And that's a really important thing that I think that I've learned over the past year and a half or so.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening in my life right now. Like, if I go back to March, April, I wanted it now, what I wanted right now, and I could probably speak for a lot of us that none of us are real patient, So it's now it's teaching me patience, and I can't control the outcome either way, one way or another, whatever's happening in my personal life. So just sit back and just continue to do what I'm doing and try to do the right thing. It makes it a lot easier. Back in April, I didn't have any like peace or calmness with anything that was happening in my personal life. But today, like I shared it in a meeting the other Monday, like now it's a fleeting thought from time to time, but more so I have a peace inside me, and I'm good with that.
It's very true. It's very true. And I made this point last night because I'm dealing with my own struggles right now. The past couple of weeks have been really tough for me. I made the point, it was either last night or this morning, a year and 2 years ago, it would have resulted in a lot of holes in my walls, the police probably getting called, all family members on high alert. It would have been a whole mess because I would have made it a whole mess. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter. I would have made it the biggest issue. But now I'm able to actually like step back, right? Run it through the filter and understand that God's time is like my timing and God's timing, not the same thing, man. It's not the same thing. Sometimes it is, but that's only by chance because I'm just, most of the time I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Right. And I think a lot of us are, man. It's not like you get clean and sober and all of a sudden like we're just in control. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's like we're not in control. We've learned how to turn control and that incessant need of the addict or alcoholic mind to be in control of every situation. Because like you mentioned, Jason, I'm compulsive and I'm impulsive. I want anything and everything that makes me feel good, and I want it right now, right?
Yep.
So the only way that I've been able to combat that is by I force myself sometimes to step back.
It's hard to step back.
Hell yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. It's the hardest thing, because especially, so I know that when I was in rehab, right? I remember like I would get in a fight over the phone because you could use the phones like past 7 o'clock at night, so they had like a row of phones, like landline phones that you could use to call home. And I remember like getting in a fight like with my significant other, right? We get in an argument, she'd hang up the phone. My first action is like, I call her back. She doesn't answer. Call her back again. Call her back a fourth, fifth, sixth, 20 times. Eventually like the tech would just be like, you got to quit it. Like, knock it off, dude. You're not solving anything. And then my mind goes wild and I'm like, I got to leave right now. I got to get home to fix this. And they're like, dude, you're not going to fix shit. You're not fixing anything. Sit down, get a good night's sleep, wake up, eat some breakfast, try again tomorrow. Like it's okay, dude. It's okay to just take a break. Which brings me to my next point, right? One of the biggest parts of early sobriety for me was learning how to be patient with myself. That's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're pink clouding, right? When you're on that pink cloud, you're like, things are great. I'm gonna succeed, and everybody's gonna respect me, and everything's gonna be fantastic and beautiful, right? And then you slowly learn that all of that's kind of true. Things do get better. Like your own mind heals, your body heals, your mind heals, your heart heals, right? And things start to become, you can process them a little bit softer. Right. But the hardest thing for me was learning how to just be patient, not even necessarily early on with others or other outside factors. It was about being patient with me and the growth and the healing that I was going through, so that's I think for a lot of people, they especially when you're getting out of like a long-term active addiction or alcoholism, you want results. You want to see results. Unfortunately, those results come in time. I equate it to this. I've always said that like spiritual growth is much like physical growth, right? When you start going to the gym, again, as many of us do, we get clean and sober, we get a gym membership, right? That's a natural progression.
Some of us.
Yeah, well, not all.
Some of us still hate the gym.
Don't get me wrong, I still hate the gym, but I get my ass there every morning.
Yeah.
But so like it's the same idea, right? When you start going to the gym the first couple days, how do you feel? You hurt. You hurt a lot. Your muscles are trying to figure all this out. It's just like, bro, I'm used to meth and alcohol. Like, what are you doing to me? This isn't how we work. But in time, with discipline and doing it over and over again, you start to see gains. You start to see gains. You start to feel gains. It doesn't hurt. as much anymore. It's
But
the same thing with spiritual
so
growth.
important, because as you're being patient and you're waiting and you understand like not everything is going to get better right away, there is pain in between, right? Like
yeah.
it's just a part of what we have to go through, whether it's just regular life stuff coming up or it's the consequences of the things that we did and said and the people that we hurt, before we got clean and sober, right?
Yeah.
Like those things will still bring us pain. And for me, like when I was in active addiction, when I was drinking, often I was doing so because I could not deal with pain. Like any emotional pain, I don't want this. I don't want anything like this. I can't even feel it for like 5 minutes without needing to turn to something. I don't like it. And I don't know if I've talked about this here before or other places, but like you realize over time, or at least I have, that the pain is really important because the pain tells you something's wrong, right? The pain tells you you're doing something wrong, something about your surrounding is wrong, like you have to learn from it. And I know it's a very simple concept, but like you don't grow unless you feel pain. And
or some type of discomfort.
Exactly. It's just like, it's like a little like alarm in your head, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're feeling pain because you're lonely, like, okay, that's telling you something about like how you exist in the world, right? Maybe like why is loneliness so hard? Like, why can't you sit alone with yourself? Why can't you just like enjoy your own company, right? Like, somebody's mad at you in your external life or a family member. Like, okay, what did I do to create that? And like, how do I fix it? And I think you have to kind of go through those things to get to the other side of being like a stronger and better person.
It's interesting that you brought up being alone.
Yeah.
Because I was actually thinking about that earlier today. My biggest problem is being alone. It's fear of being alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a very real fear of a lot of people in early sobriety, or just in general, not even people who are like just touching on the idea of sobriety or in sobriety or anything. I think everybody's one biggest fear is being alone.
Oh yeah, abandonment, rejection. Yeah, definitely.
It hurts. It hurts. And that all being said, I could have everything else together, but in my own mind, it's an absolute circus. Like, it's just mayhem up there. And that's where I've been. That's the headspace I've been in this week. I got sick on Monday. I started coming down with a cold. By Tuesday, it was full-blown cold. Missed 3 days in a row at the gym. Just struggling with my home life, struggling at work. And all of a sudden, like this weekend, it was like everything came crumbling down around me. Not because it was actually crumbling down around me. Everything was fine.
Your head was telling you that.
In here, the world was crumbling down around me. And I got in my own head. Here's the thing. One of the things I've learned in early sobriety. And we learned this in the 11th step. I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole. But we learned to relax and take it easy, right? Be patient with ourselves, right? And we learned through prayer and meditation that these things will fix themselves, right? God will help us fix these things. So as I was like crumbling inside, I just realized that if I'm able to turn these things over, I'll be able to manage all of these things, and all of a sudden those monkeys in my head that are just bashing off my skull and making me crazy, like, I just have to let them go. Like, not my monkeys, not my circus, as some will say, I don't have to deal with that anymore, But so I guess I wanted to touch on one thing with you real quick. You don't just attend meetings.
No.
You have other sources of, I guess you could call it recovery.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, spiritual recovery, I guess.
Yeah, so I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went through a mentorship program, like a life coach kind of thing. It was an 8 to 10 week program, so it touched on a lot of things that AA doesn't quite touch on, in my life, which is like back to like things that I struggled with as a child. Where that fear of abandonment and rejection came from. I'd actually sit with that and kind of face that, and then kind of look at my belief system and value system and where that was. Not what I thought I believed, what I actually believed based on my actions. And it came from a place of entitlement. It was a tough thing to look at because we all want to think like, oh yeah, this is my belief system on this, and it's all clear and good, and mine wasn't. it was clear with my actions. So I had to, rewrite my belief system based on where God is with those beliefs, and what I thought about, I had to look it up in Scripture, and where it's supposed to be, and then I had to rewrite, a life mission statement on myself on where I wanted to be, not where I was at the time, but where I wanted to be, and then read it to myself daily, and eventually it's like creating new neural pathways in your brain that's what you're going to be at some point in time. And then also he threw me into this it's called Abiding, but it was a group of 6 guys on a Zoom call. It's just basically just making that time every morning, like you said, making that time to go to the gym, making that time with God to sit with him every day, and learn how to figure out what he's saying to you in your life, because he's going to talk to each and every one of us. Yeah, it definitely is. He's going to talk to us, but he's not going to give us the whole story, because we're going to screw it up every time.
I don't know if many of us can handle the full story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We kind of have to see it as it comes, because if God were just here's the entire plan for your life, I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because if I would have known some of the obstacles that I would have had to overcome in my first 17 months of sobriety back before I got clean and sober, I probably would not have signed up for this. But it makes it worth it once you find out what what each obstacle will lead to. Yeah. Because I learned, and I'll just say this real quick, that I found out very early on that things were not happening to me, they were happening for me. These things that I think are just it's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me. I'm not getting any sleep. I'm stressed out to the max every day of my life. All of a sudden, a couple weeks, months later, I'm a much stronger, more level person because of it. And that's who knew?
Mm-hmm.
I almost jumped out of my seat just now when you were talking, though, because I had this flash of when I was in treatment and I was sitting on rocking chair out looking at the lake or whatever, and somebody had a similar message in a the 12th step speaker, and I was bawling and pissed. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want this program that you have, because all I keep hearing is there's a lot of work to do and it gets better. And I was it was very early when I was at treatment, but I was I legitimately thought, I understand what you're saying, and that might be true, and I don't want to do it. And I just say that because, I don't know that was a unique feeling necessarily. Sometimes we're lazy, right?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I don't want to have to do work for the rest of my life to feel happy. I don't want to have to do it every day. I don't want to have to go to meetings every day. I don't want to have to, look at myself and, my abandonment issues or whatever they are. I don't want to do any of it. So I'm just here to say that actually it does get better.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you.
But I also want to say, Jason, you are very inspiring, because you are doing so much self-work.
Yeah.
And, it's maybe not having the immediate result in getting the thing that you want right now, but it's so valuable and it's so inspiring. And the way that you are kind of just continuing to move through life, knowing that for right now, that's enough, right? Just working on yourself is enough for you to keep going, because it's really important and you're growing a lot, and you're helping a lot of people in the process.
I hope so. I try to. I know for me early on, even in sobriety, it was hard for me to still look at myself and be honest with where I was at, and all of this today helps me do that. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be. I'm going to be fallible. But not only my family in the 12-step program that I have now, with those 6 guys in that Zoom call, it's going to be ending in a couple of weeks, and we had to set up this board of advisors. It's kind of like sponsorship in a 12-step program, we have to figure out things in our lives that just we don't deem acceptable anymore. You know, and
setting boundaries.
It's the same.
Setting boundaries,
right? Or like behaviors. You
Sure.
know, for people watching porn or gambling or whatever. You have to set that, and if you break that, you have to reach out. Same thing we do with our sponsors.
That is so valuable, dude.
Yeah.
That is such a valuable way to live. Mm-hmm. I know that there's a huge movement these days for men and watching porn. I know that's a huge thing.
Yep.
Because it messes up your pathways. It messes up your pathways, man.
And it blocks you from a spiritual connection.
It does. It does. Because it's fluff. It's fluff.
Yep.
And like these days, and I've said this from the beginning, like as I was working through the 12 steps, right? I remember each time we'd get through a step. So this is how I equate it. Anybody who's ever been to an AA meeting before, right? Some meetings have plastic chips. Other meetings have metal coins, right? And you can feel the difference. Somebody slaps that bad boy in your hand, you can feel the difference, the weight of it, right? Every time I would make it through a step, and now in my life, every time I achieve a goal, right? Anytime I set out to achieve a goal and I obtain it, I want it to feel like the metal coin. I want there to be some type of substance behind it. I want to feel like it was a job well done, not just that I did it, right? One thing that I know about you is that, and one thing I respect very much out of you is that you are disciplined. You're very disciplined. So in the 11th step, and I was actually going to mention this earlier, at the very end of the chapter of Into Action, which is probably not going to make much sense to anybody who's never read the big book, but this will make sense, I think. We alcoholics are undisciplined.
Yeah.
And it says God will discipline us in the ways that they just set out prior to, right? And what that is, those ways prior to were through prayer and meditation, right? So the one thing that I have learned, and when he says we are undisciplined and God is going to discipline us, he's not talking about punishment. They're not talking about punishment. We're not being punished, right? We learn how to live with discipline, right? Because for me, when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, and my motivation is like way down here, like I have none. It's at an all-time low. How do I get the job done? I'm disciplined. From the jump, I've been disciplined, as have you. It's getting the job done when you've got no motivation. Discipline kicks in, and it gets the job done. These things, the work that you spoke about, like it seems insurmountable. It seems insurmountable.
Definitely did.
It was so real that what you just mentioned it hit me hard too, because I remember the same thing. I'm just like, shit, man, this sounds like a lot of work.
I literally thought to myself, I would rather just throw my whole life away. Like, I would rather just continue to drink and use drugs and, like, fade off into oblivion. Yeah, that's how much I did not want to do the work.
That's why I never got into a 12-step program, because I wasn't ready to do the work.
Or not ready, it's just not willing.
Not willing, yeah, mainly not willing.
I don't want to do it. That's a lot of work. That's stupid, and I'm not in the business of doing a lot of work, But now I am. Now I am, because I think I mentioned in the first episode, like, part of working through these things, it teaches you how to work hard and be diligent. Stay on topic. Stay on the task at hand and getting it accomplished. I can see you over there just like busting at the seams.
Well, I was going to say the rest of that story is that I was sitting in the rocking chair next to our good friend Rick, who is a counselor at the treatment center. And I'm saying all this to him, and everybody who knows Rick knows that he's like not soft, right? And I'm like bawling, basically being like, I want to basically kill myself rather than do this program. He was like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
And that's when he said too, he's like, just go help somebody else right now. You'll get through it and you'll be okay. I'm like, you don't understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying, like, I want to give up on life because, like, this path is too hard.
And it's not.
And he's like, I know what you're saying, and I'm saying, get over yourself and go help somebody else.
Get out of your own. So another part of this, right? You're very good at this. Rick's very good at this. I'm getting better, and I believe Laura's getting better at this. Getting out of our own way. In early sobriety, like, it literally feels like you ever had one of those dreams where you're at the bottom of the stairs and somebody's chasing you? Like when you were a kid, you never had one of those dreams?
No.
Have you? Where you're trying to get to the top of the stairs and somebody's chasing you, but you can't ever get to the top of the stairs because you just keep falling over, like, or you're running through the woods and you just keep tripping over yourself, in like those bad, scary movies or whatever. That's the way that it felt to me in early sobriety. Like when I first came home from rehab, it's just like, doesn't matter what I do, I trip over myself and I'm just fumbling my way through this. That's the way it's going to feel for pretty much everybody. When you come here, you don't know what the hell you're doing. So what do? We get out of our own way. How do we do that? We start associating with the winners, right? Yeah. That's how I did it.
And we stopped thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Like that advice from Rick was very helpful. Yeah. Just like, instead of living in your own brain with the monkeys, tripping over yourself.
Yeah.
Just literally completely get out of yourself and go talk to somebody else about them, not about you.
It's absolutely true, though. I've done it more recently in the last 5 months to step out and help somebody else. And then it's so true. Forget about everything that I have going on in my head.
It's hard for me. And this podcast is about being honest. For me, it's really hard to not be selfish. Because I lived for so long. A big portion of the way that I lived was it wasn't just that being impulsive and being compulsive. It was being totally 100% selfish. I didn't care about anybody else's wants or needs. It was all about mine. It was feeding myself in whatever way I could possibly manage, right? So in sobriety, it's just that pink cloud and the whole I feel really great. It's just I want more of this. I want more of it. And it's easy to get overtaken by that sense. And it's easy to just once you're in and you start to feel really good, it's easy to get overwhelmed with it and just be yes, I'm doing this all the time. So for me, it's really hard not to be selfish in that aspect too. It's been a long road of me understanding what it truly means to get out of here and help someone else, right? Sometimes it's in the form of something as simple like our good friend Louie does, just texting other people about them. Hope you have a great day today. How are you today? Let's talk, Or Rick is great for this too. Sometimes he'll just be want to go get ice cream? And he'll just swing by, pick me up, and we'll go get ice cream and we'll just talk. It's sometimes it doesn't have to be the whole picking up a sponsee, going to a rehab center 3 hours away to go do a speaking commitment. It doesn't always have to be that. It can be something as simple as just shooting a text message to somebody else to get out of here. I want to hear about you.
Yeah.
Tell me about you. So I don't know, man. This journey so far, I have learned a lot, and I've had. You guys asked him about tools earlier. What tools? I've had to put so many of them to heavy use in the past couple weeks, man. It's things that I never thought I'd have to use, but also I never knew I could.
Yeah, I never knew I possessed them.
Yeah. But
that's really powerful, by the way. Just that idea that you never knew, and I feel the same way. I never knew that I could get through X. I never knew that I could, view a situation a certain way. It's very powerful to have those kind of tools now in your life.
I think Thursday night I stayed after we got ice cream and talked to a good buddy in the program, and I'm reflecting God, I wish I would have done exactly what I'm doing now when I first got out of treatment, and I wouldn't be in any of these situations I am.
Yeah.
But then he's but also you wouldn't have learned what you learned.
I wish I would have known now what I wish I would have known this stuff back before I started using meth, but it's
yeah,
but that's not how it works, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have dove as hard in. I wouldn't have, met the people I met along the way in the other programs alongside of the AA program, So, I guess that's a blessing in itself for me.
Yeah, and so I wanted to, because I've always loved the pink cloud idea, right?
I wish I could have stayed on that.
Sure, we all do. So and actually, it's funny that you say that, because I heard a speaker come into our one rehab center, the first one that I was at, and somebody asked him the question of what are your thoughts on the pink cloud? This guy had maybe, he had upwards of 10 years. He was a younger guy, maybe in his 30s. But he had he had significant clean and sober time, right? They asked him what his opinion was on the pink cloud. And he explained that he doesn't see it so much as a pink cloud as much as it is an open window. And he said, as when that window's open, you can feel the cool breeze of recovery coming in through the window. And that feels really good. Everybody loves a cool breeze, a cool summer breeze. He's but eventually that window starts to shut, right? He's but there are ways to put a peg in that window and keep it from shutting entirely, right? Because sometimes that window will shut. Life gets lifey, the window starts to shut, but you have to keep that window open somehow, right? That's recovery. That's what that peg that you stick in there, that is what recovery is. You keep the cool breeze coming in. It doesn't ever have to completely stop, because when it stops, that's trouble, right? So you have to do something so that peg that you put in the window, that wedge, right? For lack of a better term, that wedge that you put in the window, that's getting to meetings. That's staying connected. That's running things through the filter. That's finding a higher power. That's having good friends that are also clean and sober, that do fun shit together. You know what I mean? Finding ways to like manage this crazy life. Because like, look, man, I think we can all agree that anyone could use a good 12-step program. You know, because it teaches us how to live. It teaches us how to manage these things. And there are certainly many other sources of recovery, right? I have not explored those in my life. Like Jerry, the one that I mentioned at the beginning. Like his source of recovery is heavy spirituality. That works for him. You know, because when you come into AA, people are just like, this is it. This is the only way. It's like, but that statistically, that can't be true. There has to be other ways to do this, and I encourage anybody to find it.
Yeah, it's not true, and there are tons of ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, AA's my program, but I also have a lot of other things that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
You know, if I ever get too comfortable and stop that seeking, you know, I don't know what'll happen, and I'm not trying to find out.
I think the really important thing, though, which should be obvious, is that we've all been through things in early recovery, and none of us have drank or picked up.
Yeah.
And like with your window analogy, even if it's just open a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, leave it open, because that just means not drinking or picking up. Because once that happens, everything I think goes out the window.
That's a good point. Because it's kind of like once it gets down to a certain point, it's going to keep itself open.
Yeah.
You have to physically shut it.
If you want to just drink, you know, use whatever, give it all up. But sometimes, like even in recovery, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, when things are really hard, sometimes it might just be going back to the basics. Like, I just need to make it through today.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe I don't call a sponsor, or maybe I don't go to a meeting. Like, maybe I'm feeling that shitty.
Yeah.
Just go to bed. You know, like, just go to bed and make it through the day and start over the next day.
Drink
like,
some water, go to bed.
Anything you need to do to just not drink or use a drug.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
I was talking to that guy in my other program on the phone, one of the guys that I have on my board of advisors the other day, about just life. He's not even in a program, and he's like, all I need out of you is to get through today, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow. And I'm like, dude, all right, I got that. I can do that.
But they talk about it, and I'm pretty sure every
Everywhere.
recovery program of like, if you have got 1 foot in tomorrow and 1 foot in yesterday, then you're pissing all over today. Right. But that's not just for like being like, oh my God, what am I going to do tomorrow? Or, oh my God, I can't believe I did that yesterday. It's like something as simple as like, just stay right here, man. Stay right here with us, because this is where it's like, it sounds like such a stupid, simplistic thing.
I hated it before.
Staying in the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
You don't think that it would be that hard to do. You would think, oh yeah, well, I'm living, so this is in the moment. I catch myself all the time getting caught up in something about tomorrow or even later on today. It's just like, dude, just slow down, man. And it brings me back to the point of be patient with yourself. You know, because
especially if shit is getting really bad or really hard, then just stop.
Yeah,
Just
slow
pause.
down.
Slow down,
That's
man.
where we're supposed to be anyway. We're supposed to be waiting in now and pausing.
It's the only way that, so like, and I recognized it heavily when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, where like I'm on the beach and for some reason I'm thinking about what's going to happen at work when I get back. And I caught myself and I'm just like, dude, you're on the first vacation you've been able to take in years. Like, and all you can think about is what you're going to do at work when you get home. Slow down, bro. Slow down. Patience. Enjoy what you're doing. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, hanging out on a beach. It can be something as simple as just spending time with somebody. You know, these are things that these are tools that I did not know that I possessed, and I didn't know how to implement before. You know, because let's face it, when we're in active addiction or alcoholism, the only thought that we typically have is, how am I going to get my next fix? How am I going to get my next drink? How is this going to happen for me? And it's panic, sheer panic all the time. And it's like you're always in that rat race. So now it should, to the logical mind, it should be a lot simpler. It should be a lot easier to stay in the moment. And somehow those monkeys are still up there. You know, so it's tough, man. Early sobriety is not always an enjoyable ride, but we've been taught, thank God, We've been taught and we've been shown by other people who have done it before. That's a big part of this.
Yep.
People that we've learned to trust. One of which is our very good friend Rick. He's taught me a lot about myself. My sponsors taught me a lot about myself. You've both taught me a lot about myself. These are the people. If I can make any suggestions, right? I probably shouldn't because I'm not that good at this. But if I can make any suggestions to people in early recovery, stick with the winners.
Oh, absolutely.
Find those people, stick with them, learn from them, listen to what they're saying, watch what they're doing. Watch how they're acting. Watch how they treat other people. That's a huge one. Mimic them. Start to mimic them. Start to really dig in on how their mind works. Because if they've been able to do it, somebody said to me the other night, well, if Pip could do it, you could definitely do it. I was like, whoa, how bad was I? But I remember other people saying that to me when I first came in. Well, if so-and-so could do it, you can do it. It's like, you're probably right. He's probably pretty messed up, I know I am. So it's you take these things, you take them in stride, be patient with yourself.
Yeah, and stick with the people that tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't do that early on, and now that's what I want. I don't want to hear it all the time either. Like,
who does?
When Rick tells me the truth, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But
For everybody at home, Rick will be back next week.
He will. He will be back next week.
And we will not say any of these nice things in front of him because
Absolutely
he
not.
does not need to hear them.
He does not need a more inflated ego.
Yeah.
But he'll probably watch this and be like, what the heck, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's been really great to have Jason here.
It has been.
I'm really grateful that you came on and are sharing some of your story with people.
yeah, I'm thankful you guys asked me.
Yeah,
It's fun.
So, and again, this podcast, and I'll tie things up here. This podcast is for people in early sobriety, or people who are considering sobriety, right? I have a lot of friends. My mom called me the other day and she's like, who is this podcast for? Like, what type of person is this podcast for? And so I explained to her, I was like, the goal is to reach people in early sobriety who are dealing with the struggles of the things that we've dealt with, right? But also people who are considering it. Not necessarily for those who are full-blown active addiction, who've never tried rehab or ever heard any of these things. I don't think it would go over well with them, right? It wouldn't have for me. It's for the people who, because I have a lot of friends who have tried the Sober October, or like the New Year's resolution and all that stuff, who have thought about it. And they do it. They do it. They stay sober for a month and their life gets better. And then they're just like, yeah, but everybody's drinking, so I'm going to go do that. They've experienced it. They've experienced what stopping drinking can do. What stopping using drugs or whatever. They've experienced that. So they've gotten a taste. They've gotten a taste of that pink cloud, but they don't know really what it can lead to, right? Because that mountain looks scary. We just discussed this. So this podcast is for those people. And all of us, I would say, are still in early sobriety. We're not seasoned veterans of this lifestyle. We're still learning too. So I know that we really appreciate anybody who's on this journey with us. Anybody who's been watching our episodes, anybody who's interested in this content, anybody who listens to what we're saying. It reminds me, I wanted to plug our email address. It's nocrosstalkpod at gmail.com. And I encourage anybody who's listening or who's interested, if you have questions or topics that you would like to hear us discuss, please email us. Again, it's nocrosstalkpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com. And anybody who's interested can email us and have us talk about a topic, touch on something that you want us to touch on, or promotions like I did for Jerry. If you want us to plug something on our show, we'd love to, if it's recovery related and it can help somebody, because that's what this is about. The recovery community has helped save my life, and it is our goal to help save someone else's. So if anybody has anything they want us to plug, please do. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. You did fantastic.
Yeah,
You're
thank
a good
you.
dude.
Yeah.
We'll have to go out and play golf, all three of us, sometime soon, because now Laura's playing golf, and that's great.
That'll be great.
So again, you can find us on YouTube. It is at No Crosstalk. You can find us on Instagram, again, at No Crosstalk. Our email address is nocrosstalkpod at gmail.com. And please, check out my friend Jerry Allen, Celebrate Recovery. You could text him again at 484-602-6113. He also has a meeting locally in our area in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. His meetings are on Monday nights, 6 to 7 p.m. at the Hope Center at 429 East Broad Street. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of No Crosstalk. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Thanks.